The stars looked cold and distant through the viewing window of the alien ship called Void's Edge. Captain Veltar stood with his forearms crossed behind his back, watching the empty space ahead. His purple skin had dark patches that showed he was thinking hard about something important. "Captain," called Navigator Kira from her station. Her voice was high and musical, like most females of the Keth race. "I am seeing something strange on the sensors." Veltar turned around. His large yellow eyes focused on the glowing screen in front of Kira. The bridge was dark except for the soft blue lights from the control panels. 5 other crew members worked quietly at their stations. "What kind of strange?" Veltar asked. He walked over to Kira's station. His feet made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. Kira pointed at the screen with one of her thin fingers. "There is an energy reading coming from that direction. It is very strong, much stronger than anything we have seen from the humans before." The captain looked at the display. Red dots and lines showed the location of different stars and planets. One area was flashing with bright yellow warnings. "That is the human colony world," said Science Officer Drac from across the bridge. He was older than the others, with gray patches on his purple skin. "The one they call New Sol. We have been watching it for 3 months now." Veltar nodded. The Keth Empire had been studying the humans for a long time. These strange, 2-armed creatures had appeared in space only 200 years ago. That was very recent compared to the Keth, who had been traveling between stars for over 5,000 years. At first, the humans seemed weak and primitive. They had simple ships and basic weapons. But something changed in the last 50 years. The humans started building better technology very fast, too fast for the Keth leaders to feel comfortable. "What kind of energy is it?" Veltar asked Kira. She touched several buttons on her control panel. New information appeared on the screen. "I do not know, Captain. It is unlike anything in our databases. The pattern is different." Drac left his station and came over to look. His old eyes studied the readings carefully. "Captain, I think we should report this to the Empire and stay here. We are supposed to only watch from the neutral zone." The neutral zone was the empty space between Keth territory and human space. Both sides had agreed not to enter each other's areas without permission. So far, both sides had kept this agreement. Veltar thought about this. He was young for a captain, and he wanted to prove himself to the Empire leaders. Finding out what the humans were doing could make him famous. "How far is it to the human world?" he asked. "About 6 hours at normal speed," Kira answered. "But, Captain, if we cross into human space—" "The humans will not know," Veltar said quickly. "Our ship has the best hiding technology. We can get close, take readings, and leave before they see us." Drac shook his head. "This is not wise, Captain. The humans may seem primitive, but they are not stupid. Their warning systems might be better than we think." "Are you afraid of humans?" Veltar asked. His voice was sharp and challenging. Drac's skin patches turned darker. This showed he was getting angry. "I am not afraid, I am careful. There is a difference." The bridge became very quiet. The other crew members stopped their work to listen. They all knew that Veltar and Drac often disagreed about things. Veltar walked back to his captain's chair in the center of the bridge. It was made of smooth, black stone from the Keth homeworld. He sat down and thought about his choices. The Keth Empire wanted to know what the humans were doing. If Veltar brought back important information, he would be rewarded. But if he caused problems by getting caught, he would be punished. "Navigator Kira," he said finally, "set course for the human world, slow speed and full stealth mode." "Yes, Captain," Kira said, but her voice sounded worried. Drac returned to his station without saying anything more. His silence showed that he disagreed with the decision. The ship began to move forward. Veltar watched the stars change position on the main screen. Soon they would cross the invisible line that marked the beginning of human space. "Captain," called Communications Officer Zeth, "should I prepare the message systems in case the humans try to contact us?" "Yes," Veltar said, "but keep them on receive only. I do not want to send any signals that might give away our position." The next few hours passed slowly. The crew worked quietly, checking their instruments and making sure the stealth systems were working properly. The ship moved through space like a shadow, invisible to most sensors. Kira watched her navigation screen carefully. Captain, we are approaching the boundary of human space. Veltar stood up from his chair. This was the moment that would decide everything. Continue forward. Maintain stealth mode. The ship crossed the invisible line. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kira's station started beeping softly. Captain, she said with worry in her voice, I am detecting scanning beams, very faint ones. From where? Veltar asked. I cannot tell. The signals are too weak and coming from many directions. Drac looked up from his science station. Captain, I recommend we turn back now. If they are scanning us, they might know we are here. But Veltar wanted to continue. He was so close to the human world now. Just a few more hours, and he would have the information the Empire wanted. Continue course, he ordered. 30 minutes. Later, Zeth's communication station suddenly came alive with noise and flashing lights. Captain, we are receiving a transmission. From the humans? Veltar asked. His heart started beating faster. Yes, sir. It is in our language. Perfect. Keth language. Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. How could the humans speak Keth? The two races had never officially met or shared language information. Put it on the main speakers, Veltar ordered. The bridge filled with a calm, mechanical, voice-speaking perfect Keth. Unknown vessel, you have entered human territorial space without authorization. You have exactly 1 hour to retreat beyond the boundary or face permanent consequences. This is your only warning. Repeat, you have 1 hour to leave human space. This message will not be sent again. The transmission ended. The bridge was completely silent. Kira was the first to speak. Captain, how do they know our language? And how did they find us? Asked Zeth. Our stealth systems are the best in the galaxy. Veltar stared at the main screen. The human world was still several hours away, but somehow the humans already knew he was here. They knew exactly where his ship was and could speak to him in his own language. Drac stood up from his station. Captain, we must leave immediately. This proves the humans are more advanced than we thought, but Veltar's pride was hurt. No primitive species should be able to detect Keth technology, and no one should give orders to a Keth captain. No, he said firmly. We continue to the human world. They are trying to scare us with tricks and lies. 1 hour is plenty of time to reach their planet and get the information we need. Drac sat back down, but his skin patches were now very dark. Then we are all fools, he said quietly. Veltar ignored him. Navigator, increase speed. Communications, monitor all frequencies. Science officer, prepare the deep scanning equipment. The ship moved faster toward the human world. Behind them, the invisible boundary of human space seemed to watch their every move. None of the Keth crew knew that their ship was already surrounded by things they could not see or detect. The humans had been tracking them since the moment they crossed the line. The 1 hour countdown had begun. Admiral Li Jiwan was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started ringing. The hot liquid was still warm in her hands as she set down the cup and looked at the flashing red lights on her office wall. Computer, report, she said in a calm voice. Boundary breach detected in Sector 7, the computer answered. Unknown vessel has crossed into human space without authorization. Warning message has been transmitted. Li Jiwan was not surprised. She had been expecting something like this for months. The alien races were getting curious about human technology. It was only a matter of time before one of them decided to take a closer look. She pressed a button on her desk. Get me, Commander. Park Minho on the iron wall. The screen on her wall came alive. Park Minho's face appeared. He was a serious man with short black hair and intelligent eyes. Behind him, she could see the busy control room of the border defense platform. Admiral, Park said with a respectful bow of his head. We detected the breach 47 minutes ago. The vessel appears to be Keth in origin. How many ships? Lee asked. Just one. A research vessel by the look of it. Medium size, about 300 meters long. Lee nodded. The Keth Empire had been watching human space for a long time. Their ships often stayed just outside the boundary, observing and scanning. But this was the first time one had actually crossed the line. What is their heading? She asked. Direct course for New Seoul, Park answered. They ignored our warning message completely. Lee stood up from her chair and walked to the large window that looked out at Earth. The planet was beautiful from this high orbital station. White clouds moved slowly over blue oceans and green continents. "Have they responded to the warning at all?" she asked. "No, Admiral. Radio silence since we transmitted, but our sensors show they increased speed after receiving the message." This told Lee everything she needed to know. The aliens were not lost or confused. They were deliberately entering human space without permission. This meant they thought humans were weak enough to ignore. "Commander Park, activate Protocol 5, she ordered. Park's eyes widened slightly. Protocol 5 was serious business. It meant treating the intruders as a real threat to human security. "Yes, Admiral. Activating now." Lee watched as Park turned to his crew and began giving orders. The Iron Wall was humanity's most advanced border defense platform. It looked like a small moon, but it was actually packed with the newest human technology. "Admiral," Park said, turning back to the screen. "Lieutenant Kim So-young reports all systems are ready." "Good. I want full tracking on that vessel. Use the new drones." Lieutenant Kim So-young was one of the best tactical officers in the human fleet. She was young, but very smart. Her specialty was the quantum-locked patrol drones that Dr. Choi Hyun-woo had recently finished building. These drones were special. They could phase shift through space, becoming invisible to almost any sensor. More importantly, they could appear and disappear anywhere within a large area around human worlds. "Drones are launching now," Park reported. "Lieutenant Kim has 12 units moving to intercept." Lee smiled slightly. The aliens thought they were sneaking through human space undetected. They had no idea that humanity had been watching their every move since the moment they crossed the boundary. Her desk communicator beeped. "Admiral, I have Dr. Yang Minji from New Seoul Research Station." "Put her through," Lee said. A new face appeared on her screen. Dr. Yang Minji was a specialist in alien technology and behavior. She worked on the research station that orbited New Seoul, studying everything humans had learned about other species. "Admiral Lee," Dr. Yang said, "I have been monitoring the situation. The alien vessel has been scanning our colony world for the past 20 minutes. "What kind of scans?" Lee asked. "Deep penetration scans. They are trying to map our defensive systems and technology. This is not just curiosity, Admiral. This is military intelligence gathering." Lee felt her jaw tighten. The aliens were not just violating human space. They were actively spying on human defenses. This was much more serious than a simple boundary crossing. "Dr. Yang, activate the New Seoul defense grid. Full stealth mode." "Already done, Admiral. All defensive systems are online but hidden. The aliens will not be able to detect them until we choose to reveal them." This was another piece of human technology that other species did not know about. Human colonies looked peaceful and undefended from the outside, but each one was actually surrounded by powerful weapons and shields that remained invisible until needed. "How long until the alien ship reaches New Seoul?" Lee asked. Commander Park checked his displays. "At their current speed, about 3 hours and 15 minutes. Lee thought about this. The aliens had ignored humanity's warning. They were gathering military intelligence. And they were heading directly for one of humanity's most important colony worlds. In the old days, before humans reached the stars, this would have meant war. Different nations on Earth had fought many battles over much smaller violations, but humans had learned from their history. War was expensive and destructive. It was much better to solve problems before they became wars. The best way to do this was to show potential enemies that fighting humans would be a very bad idea. "Commander Park, I want you to contact Commander Bae Jin-woo on the Seoul's Pride. Have him prepare for first contact procedures." "The Seoul's Pride is already moving to intercept," Park said. "Commander Bae anticipated your orders." Lee was pleased, but not surprised. Commander Bae Jin-woo was one of humanity's best first contact specialists. He understood how to deal with alien species without starting unnecessary conflicts. "Admiral," Dr. Yang said from her screen, "I should tell you something important. The Keth are a proud species. They do not like to back down from challenges. If we threaten them directly, they might do something foolish." "What do you recommend?" Lee asked. "Show them our capabilities without making it seem like a personal insult. Let them save face while they retreat." Lee nodded. Dr. Yang understood. Alien psychology better than most humans. Her advice was usually very good. "We will try that approach first," Lee said. "But if they continue to ignore our warnings—" She did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what would happen if the aliens refused to leave peacefully. "Admiral," Park said, "Lieutenant Kim reports the patrol drones have reached the alien vessel. They are maintaining position around the target." "Are the aliens detecting the drones?" Lee asked. "No, Admiral. The drones are completely invisible to their sensors." This was exactly what Lee had hoped. The aliens thought they were alone in space, but they were actually surrounded by human technology they could not even see. "How much time is left on their warning?" she asked. Park checked his chronometer. 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Lee walked back to her window and looked out at Earth again. Somewhere out there, an alien ship was flying toward human territory with unknown intentions. The captain of that ship thought humans were weak and primitive. He was about to learn how wrong he was. "Commander Park, prepare Phase 2 of Protocol 5. I want everything ready when their time runs out." "Yes, Admiral. All units are standing by." Lee picked up her coffee cup again. The liquid was cold now, but she drank it anyway. In a few minutes, the Keth captain would have to make a very important choice. He could turn around and leave human space peacefully, or he could continue forward and face the consequences. Lee hoped he would choose wisely. But if he did not, humanity was ready to teach him a lesson he would never forget. The countdown continued. 13 minutes and 21 seconds remaining. Captain Veltar watched the timer on his command screen count down. 8 minutes and 43 seconds remained of the human warning. His ship was now much closer to the human colony world, and his sensors were gathering lots of interesting information. "Science Officer Drac," he called out. "What are you finding?" Drac looked up from his station with worry in his yellow eyes. "Captain, something is very strange about this human world. The defensive readings are much lower than they should be." "What do you mean?" Veltar asked. "A colony world this size should have powerful shields and weapons. But I am detecting almost nothing. Either the humans are very foolish, or—" "Or what?" Veltar demanded. "Or they are hiding their true capabilities from us." Veltar laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Humans are primitive creatures, Drac. They cannot hide anything from Keth sensors." But even as he said this, Veltar felt a small doubt growing in his mind. The humans had known his ship was there from the very beginning. They had spoken to him in perfect Keth language. These were not the actions of a primitive species. "Captain," Navigator Kira said suddenly, "I am detecting movement ahead of us." "What kind of movement?" Veltar asked. Kira touched several buttons on her control panel. The main screen changed to show a tactical display. "There is a large object moving toward us. It appears to be a human ship." Veltar stood up from his captain's chair. "How large?" "About our size. Maybe a little bigger. It is moving at moderate speed and does not appear to be in attack formation. Are they trying to contact us?" Veltar asked Communications Officer Zeth. "Not yet, Captain, but they are definitely aware of our presence." Veltar thought about this. The humans were sending one ship to meet him. This could mean they wanted to talk, or it could mean they were preparing to fight. Either way, it showed they were not afraid of his vessel. "Continue on course," he ordered. "Maintain stealth mode and prepare weapons just in case." The minutes passed slowly as the two ships moved toward each other. Veltar could see the human vessel getting larger on his screen. It had a strange design, unlike anything in the Keth database. "Captain," Drac said quietly, "I recommend we accept the human offer to leave. We have gathered enough information already." "We have gathered nothing," Veltar snapped. "All we know is that they can speak our language and detect our ships. That is not enough to report to the Empire." 3 minutes and 12 seconds remained on the countdown. Suddenly, all the lights on the bridge flickered. Kira's navigation station started beeping rapidly. "Captain!" she called out in alarm. "Something is wrong with our movement systems." "What do you mean wrong?" Veltar demanded. "We are slowing down." "No! We are stopping. I cannot make the ship move forward." Veltar felt cold fear run through his body. "Engineering, report." The voice of Chief Engineer Vex came through the communications system. "Captain, all engines are working perfectly, but something is preventing us from moving through space." "It It's like we are stuck in invisible mud. Science Officer Drac was working frantically at his station. Captain, I am detecting massive energy fields around us. They appeared from nowhere. From where? Veltar asked. I do not know. One moment there was empty space, and the next moment we were surrounded by some kind of spatial distortion field. The main screen suddenly changed. Instead of showing space around them, it now displayed the face of a human male. He had short black hair and calm brown eyes. Behind him, Veltar could see what looked like the bridge of the approaching human ship. Greetings, the human said in perfect Keth language. I am Commander Bei Jinwu of the human vessel Soul's Pride. You are Captain Veltar of the Keth research ship Void's Edge. Veltar was shocked. How did this human know his name and the name of his ship? Your warning time has expired, Commander Bei continued in the same calm voice. You chose to ignore our request to leave human space. However, I am authorized to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw peacefully. You have no right to give me orders, Veltar shouted at the screen. Remove whatever device is stopping my ship immediately. Commander Bei's expression did not change. Captain Veltar, you entered our territory without permission. You ignored our warning. You are currently gathering intelligence on our defensive systems. Under human law, these actions classify you as a hostile force. Hostile force? Veltar laughed. You are threatening me. One human ship against a Keth vessel. Captain, Drac said urgently from his station. I am detecting more ships, many more ships. What? Veltar spun around to look at the tactical display. The screen showed dozens of red dots surrounding his ship. They had appeared from nothing, as if they had been invisible until this moment. How many? Veltar asked in a whisper. 47 ships, Kira answered. Her voice was very quiet. They are all around us. We are completely surrounded. Commander Bei was still speaking from the main screen. Captain Veltar, the ships you now see have been observing you since you entered human space. Our technology allows us to remain hidden until we choose to reveal ourselves. Veltar stared at the tactical display. 47 human ships. His one vessel was outnumbered and trapped, but the Keth Empire had superior technology. Surely his weapons could fight through them. Captain, Communications Officer Zeth said with fear in his voice. I am receiving signals from something else, not ships, something smaller. What kind of signals? Veltar asked. Drones. Hundreds of them. They are all around us, very close to our hull. Science Officer Drac was reading his instruments with growing alarm. Captain, these drones are using technology I do not recognize. They appear to be scanning every part of our ship in detail. Commander Bei's voice came from the screen again. Captain Veltar, you now have a choice to make. You can surrender your ship to human authority for safe escort out of our territory. Or you can continue your aggressive behavior and face the full consequences of violating human space. What consequences? Veltar demanded. Complete removal from physical existence, Commander Bei answered calmly. Your consciousness would be preserved, but your ability to interact with the physical universe would end permanently. Veltar did not understand what this meant, but it sounded very threatening. He looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. You are bluffing, Veltar said finally. No species has that kind of technology. Commander, Bei nodded slightly. Lieutenant Han Suyung, please demonstrate Protocol 7 on the nearest drone. On the tactical screen, Veltar watched as one of the small red dots representing a human drone simply disappeared. It did not explode or break apart. It just stopped. Existing. The drone has been converted to pure information and stored in our quantum archives, Commander Bei explained. The process is reversible, but only if we choose to reverse it. The drone's physical structure no longer exists in this universe. Veltar felt his hands shaking. This was beyond anything the Keth Empire knew how to do. The humans were not just more advanced than expected. They were using technology that seemed impossible. Captain, Drac said quietly, I strongly recommend surrender. But Veltar's pride would not let him give up. He was a Keth captain. His species had ruled space for thousands of years. He could not surrender to creatures that had only left their home planet 200 years ago. Never, he said firmly. Communications Officer Zeth, contact the Keth Empire. Tell them we are under attack by human forces. Zeth tried his controls, but nothing happened. Captain, I cannot send any messages. Something is blocking all our communications. They have cut our connection to subspace, Drac reported. We cannot call for help or escape through faster-than-light travel. Veltar realized he was truly trapped. The humans had surrounded him with ships and drones. They had stopped his vessel from moving. They had blocked his communications. And they claimed to have weapons that could erase him from existence, but he was still a Keth captain. He would not beg for mercy from inferior creatures. All weapons, target the human command ship, he ordered. Fire when ready. The bridge crew hesitated for a moment, then they began preparing to attack Commander Bay's vessel. On the screen, the human commander's expression remained completely calm. I am sorry you have chosen this path, Captain Veltar, he said. Lieutenant Han Suyung, you are authorized to proceed with Protocol 7. Veltar watched as his weapons fired at the human ship. Bright energy beams crossed the space between the vessels. The beams hit the human ship and simply disappeared as if they had struck nothing at all. Impossible, Veltar whispered. That was when the real demonstration began. The weapons fire from Captain Veltar's ship hit the human vessel and vanished like raindrops on hot stone. Not a single mark appeared on the hull of Commander Bay's ship. The energy beams simply disappeared as if they had never existed. Impossible, Veltar whispered again. He turned to his weapons officer. Fire again! Maximum power! The Keth ship fired its most powerful weapons. Streams of deadly energy that could destroy a small moon struck the human vessel. Once again, the beams disappeared without effect. Captain, Science Officer Drax said with amazement in his voice, the human ship is not just deflecting our weapons. It is absorbing the energy completely. Their shields are converting our attacks into power for their own systems. On the main screen, Commander Bei Jinwu remained calm. Captain Veltar, your weapons cannot harm us. Human defensive technology is several generations ahead of anything the Keth Empire possesses. Veltar felt his world turning upside down. The Keth had always believed they were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their weapons were supposed to be unstoppable, but these humans were treating his most powerful attacks like gentle breezes. This is not possible, he said. No species can advance this fast. 200 years ago, you barely had space travel. Commander Bay nodded. That is correct. But humans learn very quickly when we need to. We studied every alien technology we could find. We improved on it. And we created things that no one else had ever imagined. Suddenly, a new voice came through the communication system. It was speaking in Keth language, but with a different tone and accent. Captain Veltar, this is Major Yoon Tae-hyung commanding the stealth frigate Ghost of Busan. I think it is time you understood your situation more clearly. Another human ship? Veltar asked. One of many, Major Yoon replied. Captain, let me explain something about human history. For thousands of years, we fought wars among ourselves. We learned to be very suspicious and very careful. When we reached the stars, we decided that our space would be absolutely safe. The tactical display around Veltar's ship changed again. Now it showed even more human vessels. They were not just surrounding his ship. They were everywhere in this part of space. How many ships do you have? Veltar asked. In this immediate area? About 200, Major Yoon answered casually. But that is not the important number. The important number is 0. 0 what? 0 alien ships that have ever successfully attacked a human target after being warned to leave, Major Yoon explained. Your ship will not be the first. Science. Officer Drac was studying his sensors with growing fear. Captain, I am detecting something else. The space around us is changing. What do you mean, changing? Veltar demanded. The fabric of space itself is being altered. They are creating what appears to be a reality anchor. Veltar had never heard this term before. A what? A new voice joined the conversation. This one was female and had a slightly different accent. Captain Veltar, this is Dr. Song Nari speaking, from New Seoul Research Station. I will explain what is happening to you. The main screen split to show both Commander Bay and a human female with long black hair and intelligent eyes. A reality anchor, Dr. Song continued. is a device that locks a section of space into our universe completely. While it is active, nothing can escape through faster than light travel. Nothing can phase shift or become invisible, and nothing can send messages through subspace. Veltar felt cold terror growing in his chest. You are cutting us off from everything? That is correct, Dr. Song said. Your ship now exists in a bubble of space that is completely controlled by human technology. You cannot escape, you cannot hide, and you cannot call for help. But why? Veltar asked. We are just one research ship. Commander Bay answered this question. Captain, you entered our space without permission. You ignored our warning. You fired weapons at our vessels. Under human law, you have committed acts of war. Acts of war? Veltar's voice was getting higher with panic. We never declared war on you. You did not need to declare it, Dr. Song explained. Your actions declared it for you. The moment you chose to attack our ships, you became an enemy combatant. Major Yoon's voice came through the speakers again. Captain Veltar, let me tell you something that might interest you. Humans have been preparing for this situation for 50 years. Every human world, every human ship, every human station is protected by technology that other species do not understand. What kind of technology? Veltar asked. Though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Consciousness displacement, Dr. Song answered. We can remove living beings from their physical bodies and store their minds as pure information. The process preserves every thought, every memory, every aspect of personality. But the physical body becomes an empty shell. Veltar stared at her. That is impossible. No one can do that. Humans can, Commander Bay said simply. We developed this technology after studying the way consciousness works in different alien species. It is completely safe and completely reversible, but only if we choose to reverse it. You are threatening to kill us? Veltar asked. No, Dr. Song corrected. We are threatening to remove you from physical existence. Your consciousness would survive forever in our quantum storage systems. You would be aware and able to think, but you would have no way to interact with the physical universe. That is worse than death, Navigator Kira whispered from her station. It is not death, Commander Bay said. It is imprisonment. Permanent imprisonment, unless the human government decides to release you. Veltar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him with terror in their eyes. They were waiting for him to make a decision that would determine their fate. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Very simple, Major Yoon answered. Surrender your ship. Accept human authority. Allow us to escort you safely out of human space. In return, you and your crew will remain in your physical bodies. And if we refuse? Veltar asked. Then you will become the first aliens to experience permanent consciousness storage, Dr. Song said. Your ship will be added to our museums, and your empire will receive a very clear message about what happens to those who violate human territory. Veltar thought about his options. He could surrender and face shame when he returned to the Keth Empire, or he could refuse and face something much worse than death. How do I know you will keep your word? He asked. How do I know you will really let us go? Commander Bay's expression became slightly warmer. Captain, humans do not lie about these things. We want to live in peace with other species. But we will not allow anyone to threaten our people or our territory. You have 5 minutes to decide, Major Yoon added. After that, we will assume you have chosen to remain as our permanent guests. Veltar closed his eyes and tried to think clearly. Everything he had believed about humans was wrong. They were not primitive or weak. They were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered, but they were also offering him a chance to survive, a chance to return home and warn his empire about what he had discovered. Science Officer Drac, he said quietly. What do you recommend? Drac looked up from his station. His old eyes were full of sadness. Captain, I recommend we accept their terms. We have learned something very important today. The human species is not to be challenged. Veltar nodded slowly. His pride wanted him to fight, but his intelligence told him to surrender. Commander Bay, he said finally, I accept your terms. A wise choice, Captain. Commander Bay replied. "Prepare your ship for escort procedures. We will guide you safely back to the boundary of human space." As the human ships began to move into formation around his vessel, Veltar realized that everything had changed. The galaxy was no longer a place where the Keth Empire could do whatever it wanted. Humans had claimed their territory, and they had the power to defend it. The age of Keth dominance was ending. Captain Veltar thought he had made the right choice by surrendering. His ship was now surrounded by human vessels, and he expected to be escorted peacefully back to the boundary of human space. But as the minutes passed, something inside him began to change. The Keth captain started thinking about what would happen when he returned to his empire. He would have to report that he had surrendered to humans without a fight. He would have to tell the Keth leaders that human technology was superior to their own. His career would be finished. His reputation would be destroyed. The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. How dare these primitive creatures humiliate him? How dare they threaten a Keth captain? His species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. No two-armed mammal was going to tell him what to do. "Navigator Kira," he said quietly. "How many human ships are directly ahead of us?" Kira looked at her sensors with confusion. "Captain, why do you ask? We have agreed to surrender." "Just answer the question," Veltar snapped. "3 ships are directly ahead, Captain. But why does this matter?" Veltar was forming a plan in his mind. If he could destroy one human ship, he could prove that the Keth were not helpless. Even if his own ship was destroyed in the process, he would die with honor instead of living with shame. "Science Officer Drac," he called out, "what is the maximum overload capacity of our main weapons?" Drac looked up from his station with alarm. "Captain, what are you thinking? We have surrendered. The humans are treating us fairly." "I asked you a question," Veltar said coldly. "Answer it." "Captain," Drac said carefully, "if we overload the main weapons completely, we could generate enough power to possibly penetrate their shields. But the overload would destroy our ship. We would all die." "And would it destroy the human ship we target?" Veltar asked. Drac hesitated. "Possibly. But Captain, this would be suicide, and it would break our surrender agreement." Communications Officer Zeth was listening to this conversation with growing horror. "Captain, you cannot be serious. The humans have kept their word. They are escorting us safely out of their territory." "They are humiliating us," Veltar shouted. "We are Keth. We do not surrender to inferior species." Navigator Kira turned from her station. "Captain, please think about what you are saying. If we attack them now, they will use that terrible weapon on all of us. We will be trapped forever in their computer systems." "Better to be trapped forever than to live with shame," Veltar replied. On the main screen, Commander Bei Jinwu was still visible. He seemed to be monitoring the conversation, but he had not said anything for several minutes. "Captain Veltar," Commander Bei said suddenly, "are you considering breaking our agreement?" Veltar felt caught. He had not realized the humans were still listening to everything happening on his bridge. "I am a Keth warrior," he said defiantly. "I do not bow to creatures like you." Commander Bei's expression did not change. "I see. In that case, I should inform you that your weapons overload plan will not work." "What?" Veltar was shocked. How did the human know about his plan? "Our sensors have been monitoring your ship's systems since you entered human space," Commander Bei explained. "We know exactly what you are thinking of doing. We also know that it will not succeed." "You are lying," Veltar said. "A weapons overload has enough power to destroy anything." "Perhaps," Commander Bei agreed. "But you would need to aim that power at something real. The ship you are planning to target is not actually there." The main screen changed to show a tactical display. The 3 human ships that had been directly ahead of Veltar's vessel flickered and disappeared. "Holographic projections," Commander Bei explained. "We have been showing you images of ships that do not exist. Our real vessels are much farther away and completely protected." Veltar stared at the empty space where the ships had been. "But our sensors detected them. They had mass readings, energy signatures, everything." "Human holographic technology can fool any sensor system," Commander Bei said. We learned this technique from studying Keth stealth technology. Then we improved it. Science Officer Drac was checking his instruments frantically. Captain, he is telling the truth. Those ships were never really there. I cannot believe our sensors were fooled so completely. Veltar felt his last hope disappearing. Even his plan for a final honorable death was impossible. The humans had anticipated everything. Captain, a new voice said through the communication system. This is Colonel O Jinwan. I have been authorized to demonstrate why attacking human forces is not advisable. Another human officer? Veltar asked with bitter laughter. How many of you are there? Enough, Colonel O replied. Captain, Veltar, since you have decided to break our agreement, we will now show you what we do to hostile forces. Wait, Veltar said quickly. I have not broken anything yet. I was only thinking about it. Thinking about betraying a surrender agreement is the same as doing it, Colonel O said. Human law does not distinguish between planning an attack and carrying it out. The lights on Veltar's bridge began to flicker. Then, something very strange started happening to his crew. Communications Officer Zeth was the first to be affected. He was sitting at his station, working normally, when suddenly, his eyes became empty and blank. His hands stopped moving. He sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. Zeth, Veltar called out. Zeth, what is wrong? But Zeth did not answer. He did not even seem to hear Veltar's voice. Captain, Drax said with terror in his voice. Something is happening to Zeth's brain patterns. They are fading. As Veltar watched in horror, the same thing began happening to other members of his crew. One by one, they stopped moving and speaking. Their eyes became empty. Their bodies remained alive, but their minds seemed to disappear. What are you doing to them? Veltar shouted at the screen. Colonel O's voice answered calmly. We are using the consciousness displacement beam I mentioned earlier. Your crew members are being converted from physical beings into pure information. Stop it, Veltar begged. Please stop it. Their consciousness is being safely stored in our quantum archives, Colonel O continued. Their bodies will remain alive and healthy, but their minds now exist only as data in our computer systems. Navigator Kira was the next to be affected. Veltar watched as his friend and colleague became an empty shell. Her body was still there, still breathing, but Kira herself was gone. This is not war, Veltar said with desperation. This is something far worse. This is what happens to those who violate human space, Colonel O replied. We do not kill our enemies, Captain Veltar. We remove them from existence entirely. Science Officer Drac was fighting to stay conscious, but Veltar could see him beginning to fade as well. Captain, Drac said weakly. I was right. We should never have come here. Then Drac's eyes became empty too, and Veltar was alone on his bridge with the living bodies of his crew. Why am I still conscious? Veltar asked. Because you need to deliver a message, Colonel O answered. Someone must return to the Keth Empire and explain what happened here. Veltar looked around his bridge at the empty shells that had once been his friends and colleagues. They were all still breathing, their hearts still beating, but their minds were gone. Can you bring them back? He asked quietly. Yes, Colonel O said. The process is completely reversible, but whether we choose to reverse it depends on how well you deliver our message. What message? Veltar asked, though he already knew what it would be. Human space is not to be entered without invitation, Colonel O said. Those who violate this rule will be removed from physical existence. The Keth Empire can choose to respect our boundaries, or they can join your crew in our storage systems. Veltar closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he saw that his ship was moving. The human vessels were escorting him back toward the boundary of human space, but he was traveling alone, surrounded by the empty bodies of his crew. Will I see them again? He asked. That depends on your Empire's response to our message, Colonel O replied. If the Keth choose to respect human sovereignty, your crew will be returned to you. If they choose to continue violating our space, your crew will remain in storage forever. Veltar understood. His crew were not prisoners. They were hostages. Their fate would depend on what the Keth Empire decided to do about humanity. As his ship crossed back into neutral space, Veltar realized that he was carrying more than just a message. He was carrying the future of relations between humans and the rest of the galaxy. And that future looked very different from what anyone had expected. Captain Veltar sat alone on his bridge, surrounded by the breathing but empty bodies of his crew. The journey back to Keth space took 3 days. 3 days of complete silence except for the sound of life support systems and the steady breathing of bodies without minds. He had tried talking to his crew members, hoping they might somehow hear him. But their empty eyes stared at nothing. They were like living statues, present in body but absent in every way that mattered. When his ship finally reached the main Keth military base, Veltar sent a priority message to the Empire Command. Within hours, he was standing before the High Council, the most powerful leaders of his species. The council chamber was a massive room carved from black stone. 7 ancient Keth sat on elevated platforms, looking down at Veltar with expressions of anger and disappointment. "Captain Veltar," said High Counselor Zekmar, the oldest and most respected member of the council. "You were ordered to observe human space from a distance. Instead, you entered their territory and lost your entire crew. Explain this failure." Veltar took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech during his lonely journey home, but now that the moment had arrived, he felt small and afraid. "High Counselor, the humans are not what we thought they were. They are far more advanced than our intelligence report suggested." "How advanced?" asked Counselor Vextall, a military leader known for his aggressive tactics. "They detected our ship the moment we crossed into their space. They spoke to us in perfect Keth language. They surrounded us with vessels we could not see. And they have weapons that can remove consciousness from living bodies." The council members looked at each other with expressions of disbelief. "Consciousness removal?" High Counselor Zekmar asked. "This is not possible." "I have brought proof," Veltar said. He gestured toward the door where guards were bringing in the bodies of his crew members. "These are my crew. They are alive, but their minds have been taken away by human technology." The council watched in silence as the empty bodies were brought into the chamber. The crew members stood where they were placed, breathing and blinking, but showing no awareness of their surroundings. Counselor Dexren, the Empire's chief scientist, came down from his platform to examine the bodies more closely. He used a portable scanner to check their brain activity. "Impossible," he whispered. "There are no thoughts, no memories, no consciousness at all, but the brain tissue is completely healthy. How did they do this?" "The humans call it consciousness displacement," Veltar explained. "They store minds as pure information in quantum computer systems. The process can be reversed, but only if they choose to reverse it." High Counselor Zekmar stood up from his platform. At over 800 years old, he was one of the wisest beings in the Keth Empire. "Captain Veltar, what message did the humans send with you?" "They said that no one enters human space without invitation. Those who violate this rule will be removed from physical existence. They said the Keth Empire must choose to respect their boundaries or face the same fate as my crew." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Several counselors were shouting about Keth honor and the need to respond with military force. "Silence!" High Counselor Zekmar commanded. The room became quiet again. "Captain Veltar, in your opinion, can our military defeat the humans?" Veltar thought carefully before answering. "High Counselor, I do not believe so. They have technology that is generations ahead of ours. They can make their ships invisible. They can stop other vessels from moving through space. They can remove consciousness from any living being, and these are just the capabilities they chose to show me." "You are suggesting we surrender to these creatures?" Counselor Vexatal demanded angrily. "I am suggesting we avoid a war we cannot win," Veltar replied. "The humans are not interested in conquering us. They only want to protect their own territory. If we leave them alone, they will leave us alone." Counselor Dexran was still studying the empty bodies of Veltar's crew. "High Counselor, these humans have solved problems that our greatest scientists thought were impossible. The ability to store and transfer consciousness would revolutionize medicine, education, even space travel itself." "What are you suggesting?" High Counselor Zekmar asked. "Perhaps we should consider establishing formal diplomatic relations with humanity. If they are willing to share their technology, They will not share anything with us if we threaten them, Veltar interrupted. The humans made it very clear that they respond to aggression with overwhelming force. But they also offered to release my crew if the Empire agrees to respect their boundaries. High Counselor Zekmar walked slowly around the chamber, thinking about the situation. The other counselors waited for his decision. Captain Veltar, he said finally, show us the technical data your ship gathered about human capabilities. For the next several hours, Veltar presented everything his ship had recorded. The council members watched holographic displays showing human ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that absorbed energy attacks, and technology that could control space itself. When the presentation was finished, the chamber was completely silent. High Counselor, Counselor Vextal said quietly. If this data is accurate, the humans could destroy our entire fleet without losing a single ship. The data is accurate, Veltar confirmed. I watched our most powerful weapons strike their vessel, with no effect at all. Their shields did not even flicker. High Counselor Zekmar returned to his platform. The council will deliberate. Captain Veltar, you are dismissed. Report to medical for evaluation and debriefing. 3 days later, Veltar was called back to the council chamber. This time, the room was filled with representatives from across the Keth Empire. Military commanders, scientists, diplomats, and trade officials all waited to hear the council's decision. High Counselor Zekmar stood to address the assembly. After careful consideration of all evidence, the High Council has reached a decision. Regarding humanity, we will establish formal diplomatic relations with the human government. We will respect their territorial boundaries, and we will negotiate for the return of Captain Veltar's crew. The assembly buzzed with quiet conversations. Many seemed surprised by this decision. Furthermore, High Counselor Zekmar continued, we are sending orders to all Keth vessels in space. No ship is to approach human territory without explicit permission from both the Empire Command and the human government. Violation of this order will be considered an act of treason. After the assembly was dismissed, Veltar met privately with High Counselor Zekmar. Captain, the old counselor said, you saved the Keth Empire from a catastrophic war. Your sacrifice and that of your crew prevented the destruction of our civilization. Will my crew be returned? Veltar asked. The humans have already agreed to begin negotiations. They seem genuinely interested in peaceful relations. I believe your crew will be home within a few months. 6 months later, Veltar stood on the same bridge where his crew had been taken from him. But now, Navigator Kira was back at her station, Science Officer Drac was studying his instruments, and Communications Officer Zeth was monitoring incoming messages. They had all been returned exactly as they were before, with no memory of their time in human storage systems. To them, it seemed like they had simply fallen asleep and awakened in a Keth medical facility. Captain, Kira said, looking up from her navigation display. We are receiving a message from the human embassy. Ambassador Li Jiwan is requesting a meeting to discuss joint research projects. Veltar smiled. Admiral Li Jiwan had been promoted to diplomatic service after the successful resolution of the crisis. She was now the human ambassador to the Keth Empire, working to build better relations between the two species. Tell the ambassador I would be honored to meet with her, Veltar said. As his ship moved through space toward the meeting point, Veltar thought about how much had changed. The humans had kept their word completely. They had returned his crew safely and established peaceful diplomatic relations with the Keth Empire. Other alien species had heard the story and drawn their own conclusions. The Nexari Federation had immediately signed a non-aggression pact with humanity. The Trilithian Collective had established formal trade agreements. Even the warlike Cromnian Empire had decided that diplomacy was preferable to conflict with humans. The galaxy was becoming a more peaceful place, not because humans had conquered anyone, but because they had shown that they could not be conquered. Captain, Science Officer Drac said from his station, I am detecting something interesting on the long-range sensors. What is it? Veltar asked. A new species. They appear to be approaching human space without authorization. Veltar watched the sensor display and shook his head sadly. Send them a warning message. Tell them what happened to us. Maybe they will be smarter than we were. And if they are not, Drac asked, then they will learn the same lesson we did, Veltar replied. No one enters human space uninvited. unless they have no plans to come back. In the distance, human patrol ships were already moving to intercept the new intruders. The cycle was beginning again, but this time the galaxy knew what to expect. Humanity had claimed their place among the stars, and they had made it clear that their territory was inviolate. The message was simple but absolute. Respect human space or cease to exist in the physical universe. It